in Space.
Welcome, everybody, to Today in Space. On this podcast, we have some friends on, and we're going to talk about Star Wars, specifically The Last Jedi. So if you haven't watched it yet, I figured it was long enough, but if not, pause it right now. We are definitely going to spoil it for you. Today, my name is Alex Giorfanos. It's always Alex Giorfanos, but today it is too. I have with me some good friends. John, you guys might remember.
Hello, everyone. I've been on, I think this is probably, number 4 or 5?
Something like that. Yeah, and you're always on for any kind of, sci-fi stuff, so I really appreciate you coming back on. Movies as well, music.
Music.
Speaking of music, we also have my friend Erin.
Hey.
Welcome.
Thanks. I love it. First podcast ever. Woohoo!
So we had a bunch of Star Wars fans, and we just wanted to bring it all together and review it. So kind of to start off, what I wanted to do was start with what I thought was something I caught with a lot of people, which was some people hated it, some people really loved it, and then there was a lot of in between. But the biggest complaint I heard from really super hardcore Star Wars fans, which you guys are pretty big fans, was that if they went into it with no expectations, it was much better for them. How did that? Because I didn't go with any expectations. I felt like, okay, this is a good movie. There were some things I didn't like, but I wasn't butthurt about it. So what did you guys think?
So I went at it also trying to do a blank slate. I didn't seek out watching any trailers. I think I might have seen the trailer a couple times at movies when I was attending other movies or whatever. And I read nothing because I wanted to just go at it, because that's kind of what I did with Force Awakens, and I loved Force Awakens. I absolutely loved it. Spoiler alert for my own opinions. But
we're going to have a lot of opinions.
Yeah, we are going to have a lot of opinions.
I mean, if you guys are...
But I did not have the same emotional reaction to Last Jedi as I did to Force Awakens.
Okay.
And I'm still left kind of grappling with trying to figure out what it is that was the reason, because it's hard to figure out your true feelings when you're working also with nostalgia mixed in.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, sure.
Because a lot of it, I kind of have to refocus myself and be like, did I love 7 because I was just really excited to come back into the world?
Right. Just happy to have new Star Wars.
Right, happy to be there and see the old characters, which those moments you can't replace. When Han and Chewie come back onto the Millennium, that's classic. And that doesn't happen in 8 because it's already been done. You can't remake that initial excitement. So,
but they did a couple times. There were a couple scenes that they left out of the first remake, and they saved those for this movie, and they still had that same effect. There weren't nearly as many, and they weren't as powerful.
Yeah, I was going to say it wasn't necessarily as powerful. So my overall feeling was a little let down. But I'm also hopeful that the more I watch it, the more I'll enjoy it.
Okay.
Because that specifically happened with me with Rogue One.
Okay.
Where I wasn't totally in love with it. Loved the ending. Absolutely loved the last 5 minutes of the movie. But overall just thought it was kind of slow and whatever. But the more I watched Rogue One, which at this point I'm at 3 or 4 times watching, the more and more I enjoy it. And I think because it's easier for me to let go of the things that I find troublesome and just enjoy the movie. So I'm hopeful that that's going to be the case with The Last Jedi, the more I watch it.
Yeah.
I really tried hard
to
not watch the trailers. And I remember when the last big trailer came out, I think it was October or November, I said to myself all day, I'm not going to watch this trailer. I will not watch it. And then, who was I fooling? Only myself. Watched it, and I was so upset. It was a great trailer. It got me really excited, but it also set all sorts of expectations, and it put all these thoughts in my head that I wasn't thinking. There was a part in the trailer where they cut it to show Kylo and Rey, and they're sort of extending out. They're reaching for each other, and you're thinking what is going on? And they sort of, the trailer sets up this one moment, and the moment's going to go either way.
Right.
But I would have never dreamt up that moment in a million years.
No.
So I was a little upset that they. And you know what? That's Disney's marketing, so power to them.
Yeah, they did a good job making you think you put your own spin on what it was going to be, and you were going into it being oh man, I can't are they going to do this? Are they going to do that? There was a lot of unknown to that, and So let's talk about that. That's because that's a good one that I think a lot of a plot point that a lot of people had kind of weird feelings about. So I liked the fact that they. First of all, I don't know why they killed Snoke so early. That was kind of weird. Because it was just like, we don't even know who he is, and then now he's dead.
Oh, Snoke's not dead.
Snoke's not dead?
I don't know. We don't know. Who knows?
We were just talking about a fan theory that's going out there about Snoke not necessarily being dead.
Is anybody really dead
Is
ever?
anyone really dead?
Yeah, who's actually died in this universe to never come back?
That's
The
true.
Emperor?
Because
Right.
at this point,
And he's pretty powerful,
Jar Jar
I guess,
Binks?
right?
I'm guessing Jar Jar Binks is dead at
Qui-Gon,
this
did
point.
he ever come back officially?
Actually,
They'll definitely write him into something.
I would hope so, because cough cough Liam Neeson, like everyone.
I have a particular
pretty
set of
sure-
skills.
Wait, wrong Liam Neeson. No, but I'm pretty sure at the end of Revenge of the Sith,
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
they did say that he had
he-
figured out how to transcend
to
the
communicate,
Force.
but
and
then
yeah.
then that's it. We
Yeah, but-
never. All right.
Right.
All right.
He'll be in the Obi-Wan movie, don't worry.
Okay. That would
Yeah,
be
because they're doing a
dope.
lot of spin-offs. So anyway, so what we're gonna do here towards a little bit later here is I put up my rankings for all 9 movies. So 9 movies, which includes Rogue One, because I actually really liked Rogue One, and now that they're all becoming Star Wars stories, we might as well start including them. So one of the things that I was talking to some mega fans of Star Wars, and like blow me out of the water. Like I'm not a casual fan, but I'm definitely not hardcore. I haven't read the fan fiction. I haven't read, I haven't watched the animated series we were talking about before.
Yeah.
But I really love the movies itself. So Rogue One we had to put in there, and we're gonna have you guys score them, and then at the end we're gonna do a composite score, at least for The Last Jedi, and then we'll have a score later on. We're gonna point out some interesting things there. But to get us started here. Before we go any further, there's obviously 2 people that are the crux of the story, Rey and Kylo, or Ben Solo, however you want to say it now. So I 3D printed some lightsabers, so I want to show you guys
All right, I
need to
live
see
here.
this.
Okay,
I need to see
I'm gonna
these.
pull these out.
Now, are these designed after specific people?
So yes.
Okay.
So we have the 2 main characters of the movie.
Stop.
So
Look at
we
that.
have Luke's
I was
lightsaber,
gonna
which
say
became
that's Luke.
Rey's lightsaber, which,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, wasn't this also Anakin's lightsaber as well?
Okay, I was having a conversation with Sean about that
Hmm.
too, and I had the same question. And
Sean is Aaron's
my
husband.
now husband,
Your husband.
yay! And I believe that it should be, because
Hmm.
at the beginning of New Hope, Obi-Wan says this was your father's.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah.
the same
That's
one.
right.
Yeah.
I
So-
don't know where it came from in the first place, but
Yeah.
that is cool looking.
It's like I'm holding the real thing.
Yeah, that's the scale. That is
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, so there was
so
a few.
cool.
Let me pull up the artists who designed this on Thingiverse, which
I'm
is
gonna
a
grab this other one.
huge help. Yes, and this one here I'll display real quick is Kylo Ren's
Kylo
lightsaber,
Ren.
which is dope.
I mean, I know they're the bad guys, but they always do have some sick lightsabers.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Mostly because, like, I will say, going into episode 7, I was always curious about, like, what's this new villain lightsaber going to look like? Because up to that point, Darth Maul had it. With the double-ended
God.
lightsaber.
The double-ended
that
lightsaber.
was awesome. And,
That was amazing.
provided endless childhood fun for many years.
Yeah. And it was funny. I was just about to say, and why did they kill him off so soon and stuff like that. But there's always stuff that we find wrong with these movies. I mean, they're never going to live up to, like, everything. But that's one thing about The Last Jedi that I kind of liked. I liked that they were setting up the future. They were finishing the plot holes with a few characters, and they were doing a good job of it. But I have a feeling that they're gonna make, like, tons of Star Wars movies. Like, now that Disney has the reins on this thing, we're probably gonna see like 20 movies. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, that's what I'm thinking.
Only 20?
I mean, that's
You know that
slightly
Disney's
my
in the
concern.
money-making business, right?
No.
And if they pump out a movie every year...
They're about the happiest place
I
on
mean,
earth,
at this
right?
point, aren't they basically one of the, like, they're the only ones pumping out movies at this point? Because didn't they just grab Fox?
Yeah, they make big.
They're
moves.
making some
They
money,
make big
but like
moves.
that was my concern with the Disney grab of Star Wars, was that we were just gonna get so much content.
And George Lucas actually selling it, like the
I
story
mean,
for as long as. I mean, I'm
don't get
not
me
saying it's
wrong.
not the right thing to do.
I was
but
gonna say what I'm about to say
would've
might
made
be
some money.
controversial, but
Make some
like,
money, bro. Make some money, bro. Your ideas took the whole world by storm. Make your money.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen now? So that's
Right.
the big thing. You know,
Right.
I like what they've done. I don't like. I know there's humor in Star Wars, but I didn't like starting the movie out with the Last Jedi humor. I didn't like that.
Stop right there. We could have an
Didn't like that.
hour conversation about the humor in that movie because that I'm shifting in my seat. Here we go.
Okay,
This is
so,
my main
let me get
complaint
your
with
opinion.
the movie.
Okay.
Was specifically the humor. I found it, and I'm gonna get all fancy pants. I found it to be so far removed from like the established vernacular of the franchise that we've grown to know and love, and then I'm sorry, can you hear me now jokes? Stop.
It was
Some
much,
people loved
man.
it. I found it to be like nails on a chalkboard. It was awful. I hated it.
I know what you're saying. Like it felt out of place. And actually, I was writing my notes for this, and that's one of the things I wrote was
Yeah.
that opening scene just felt completely removed.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Get out of here.
No,
Did you really?
I truly laughed out loud. And
Why'd you like it? I'm
I
interested.
I laughed, but I just
Well, hang on. Finish your thought. Why
Yeah.
are you so against the humor? And the humor does take you out of the movie. I totally get that, and I
was gonna
didn't
say
like that
my
part of
two
it.
biggest parts, my two biggest complaints was the "Can you hear me now" joke, and then Luke's shoulder brush.
Oh, I thought
At the
I didn't
end.
like this part. I didn't like the over the shoulder.
No, I thought that was fine. But when he comes out, oh, look at me, I'm being shot at, and then I step out of and like brush my shoulder. To me, that reads so modern and so of this time, where this movie and this story is supposed to be so not this time, that a shoulder brush is just like so 2015. Like it. I mean, I don't know a better way to explain it.
I
That
know what you're saying.
it just had like. It just had a flavor to it that didn't match what I believe to be the rest of the story. But I've had some other friends, give me some examples of other jokes made in the original franchise where they're using terms and phrases that were also more current for that time too and wouldn't have necessarily matched that. Was it you? You're giving me the look like you were the one that told me that.
I did, and I wouldn't even get into that. But how about this? There's a great Princess Leia in the very first movie that came out. She was ripping joke after joke after joke, and none of it. Like, how about when she's in the cell and she's being held, and Luke comes in and he's in the stormtrooper garb, and she's, aren't you short, you stupid stormtrooper?
Yeah, you're kind of
kinda
short for a
short for a
stormtrooper.
Right. And then there's as soon as she's been freed by these people, like how generous and grateful and everything, and then she's like, get this big walking carpet out of my way.
Yeah.
And then how about that one more? They're
Okay.
in the hallway. They're in the cell hallway, right? A little,
Yeah.
and maybe a little bit before that. But all the stormtroopers are firing on them, and the only way for them to escape is to go into the trash compactor.
Right.
And
Right.
Chewie's about to go in, and he won't go in. And Han's like, I don't care what it smells like, get in there. And it's like, hang on, they're about to
Yeah.
die,
No.
and they're making
All
like
right.
they're
No.
making like
I-
stinky
To me-
jokes.
I will say, Aaron, I'm sorry.
No,
I'll let
you
finish
go.
this out.
You go.
It's weird having you be the optimist and me be the pessimist. I'm just gonna say that right now.
Anyone who has heard you and I on this, this is a complete good
It's
cop, bad cop
interesting. Yeah.
reversal right
Yeah.
now.
To me, it's not the cheese of the joke that gets me. Because, like, yes, Star Wars has always been cheesy at times, and that's, like, part of the love. To me, it was just, like, Can You Hear Me Now? And shoulder brushes, and there was one other that I wasn't really into. To me, were very, like, 21st century. And not necessarily...
Yeah.
Because then there was a moment that I found with Chewie and the Porgs. Am I saying that right? Is that, like, what
I
we
don't
call
know.
them? All right, so I'm
I
going
don't
to
know.
call it a Porg.
Wasn't a big fan. But
Those cute
they were
little
all right.
puffin things.
Yeah.
Where he's about to eat one and he gives it a sad look, and like then Chewie just like kind of says, F this, whatever, and throws it behind him.
Right.
That's funny, and that to me didn't pull me so far out of the movie that I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, it wasn't like
And
someone slammed on the brakes.
It's the maybe it's the approach, the humor that they're using. I think
Right.
that's part of it too. I think a lot, like the jokes, they were a little drier. Maybe it is a sign of the times. That does make sense. And I've thought about that too. I was thinking about that prepping for this episode. Like, if they do, which they will, they'll continue making these Star Wars stories. And I learned that the original title was actually The Star Wars. So that was the original George Lucas name for it.
Awful.
Yeah, definitely better
Awful.
as Star Wars. But if you think about what the original idea was, that it was about these stories about the Star Wars, and if you're telling these epics of war in space, then how they've approached, and this is where like a lot of people that I've talked to had a big problem with, is that like a lot of the old characters, they're just kind of like dying off. We don't have like a goodbye moment with them, really. It's kind of like, oh, you guys are old now and we're just going to move on with you. It's the next story. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's going to happen and they're going to tell all these other stories. So now I'm more excited about where Rey's going to go with this, where Kylo Ren's going to go with this. Like, have they finally made it so that the Force is no longer good and bad, like the dark side and the light side, and now it's, you can choose whatever you want to be. You can choose different parts of the Force and still have your own path forward. You know, the Jedi's dying out the Last Jedi. Spoiler alert. Like, that's a pretty cool... I like where they're going with it. I don't see what the end game is. So,
which is cool.
Cool.
I
like
definitely
don't want to know. I don't want to know the future, but I'm also like, they could definitely screw this up.
Yeah.
Just like I didn't like how that trailer presented, like there's going to be this one scene and it's only going to go either way. I like how we're at this point now where there is no yes or no moment. There's just this complete open, and I'm sure once we get closer to the next movie coming out, these will all be, solved for us. But I like having no idea what is coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could backtrack a little bit to kind of build off what you were saying before about the stories continuing. We know inevitably they're going to make it 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
Probably, because these are fantastic money-making movies that...
And they're a part of the culture.
They've become so saturated in our culture, and what's really interesting is how it continues to be... And George Lucas did this right, timed out releasing the prequel trilogy to expose it to a new, younger generation.
We were nine. We were all
he
was selling it to us.
So
and
that's...
he sold it.
And this one's being sold
exactly
to the next generation.
To the 9-year-olds. Because as a teacher,
Yeah.
when I was talking to my students, and I was talking to my 4th grade band students, so they're 9, 10 years old. They're as old as I was when the first one that I saw came out. They're talking, and I'm telling them my thoughts, and they're like, "Oh, but it was really funny." And I'm like, I had an aha moment of being like, "Okay, so this humor stuff isn't necessarily meant for me,
Right.
but it doesn't mean I can't still love the movies. It just means that this is now getting ready to be handed off to these guys, so that when they're, here making a podcast about Star Wars again, they'll have the same thoughts about 9 or 10, 11, and 12 about, well, the humor doesn't match, but if you just watch the natural progression of things, it's probably not supposed to, and, the grown-ups just need to be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely got to realize that you have to market it to a different generation. That's just the only way to make the series survive.
Because you want it to go on.
Of
That's
course.
the end game, I think, is for it to continue on, no matter what.
For the record, the guy that just made this last movie, Disney's already brought him on to make 10, 11, 12. Oh, yeah, that's already a done deal.
It is a done
It
deal.
is a
You're
done
right.
deal.
I heard about that.
It's even more crazy because they just said, we don't know what it's about, and neither does he, but we
like
have
him.
faith in you.
Yeah, that's like old school. That's how they kind of started it. I mean, it was obviously different.
It's kind of scary, but you know what? Cool.
I'm really interested to see 9 to go back to J.J. Abrams.
Yeah,
So I can do kind of a compare and contrast because, again, not being able to tell if I only like 7 because of the nostalgia of it. If I really truly enjoyed 7 just because of the interpretation of it from that director. I'm kind of glad that it's like, we were introduced to one, here's another, but we'll go back to the first one just so I can kind of see what it's like and get a better handle on my own thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see where all this stuff goes. I really do. I think there's going to be a lot to be done. I think between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, I feel like they had to... It almost seems like they dumped a bunch of plot points to kind of prep the next few movies. Because they didn't talk about Rey's parents. She's just a nobody, which doesn't really make much sense.
I don't believe that.
How much time?
No, I absolutely
with how
love
much
that.
time they
It's
spent?
awesome.
What is going
Are we
on
getting
today?
into Rey theories?
I love...
We're on such
Okay.
opposite.
All right, here we go. Rey theories. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. All right. So
Who wants to start?
You
Okay,
first.
here's my thoughts. And now I can go either way.
Okay.
I really can go either way. I don't care. I would be totally thrilled if they're like, hey guys, she's just a product of the Force and is just created, kind of like what Anakin was. Because if we remember from episode 1 in Phantom Menace,
we still don't know,
Qui-Gon Jinn says, who's the father? His mom says, I don't know, I just carried him like Jesus.
And I saw some people in front of me at the theater talking about that kind of like extreme theory stuff where like they know all the ancient lore about the Jedi. I'm like, I don't have the time.
Nerds.
I'm chill. Hold on.
Where do you think?
I'm chill that if she's like, hey, I'm just a product of the Force and I'm awesome because, like, cool. I'm also really cool if she's Obi-Wan Kenobi's daughter. Or a Kenobi.
All right.
Somehow related in this lineage of being a Kenobi. Only because I'm like, I digged some deep thoughts into it. The voiceovers, the like specific choice of bringing back not one but both Obi-Wans to do voiceovers in episode 7 when she's having that like flashback insanity.
Right. Interesting.
And he's like, I forget exactly what he says, but specifically if you watch it with subtitles.
I am your father.
No, it doesn't say that.
He doesn't say that.
You know, but it specifically says Obi-Wan's voice and then it says whatever the dialogue is.
Okay.
And then to build off of
this is a theory.
This is a real theory.
Damn.
The accents in the movie. Bear with me. And again, this is like not half thought, but like it's a very weak theory, but I kind of love it.
Okay.
I've always been intrigued by the actor of Finn, who is British, but specifically does Finn with an American accent.
Okay.
My thought was, why? I was told by by a couple of my friends, in the original movies, the upper echelon, like in power people of the Empire spoke with accents, where the stormtroopers spoke with American accents to kind of show like a class difference.
Okay.
You may fire when ready.
So I'm just really intrigued at how similar, how Rey, who if she's this no one, if she's this lower class girl, why does she have this thick British accent similar to that of Obi-Wan?
Yeah. Because
Qui-Gon Jinn didn't have a thick accent. Anakin doesn't have a thick... Like, none of the Skywalkers had that accent.
Interesting. That's a good theory. I like where you're going with it because I was doing more research on Star Wars and even the font, because they do that stuff. Even the font I was reading, he specifically asked the person, I don't remember who the artist was who was doing the logo, to find like a fascist font. Like that was literally what he tasked her with doing, according to an article that I read. So that's pretty interesting. Like he does focus on that kind of stuff. So, and
it was a female, and she like didn't get the rights to it, so like has made nothing off of that font. I believe I read an article. Like,
interesting. I've never heard anything about that. That's
and there's multiple fonts that are used as kind of whatever you'd like to use, depending on what time it came out. But it's just interesting. John, what's yours?
Okay, I like that Rey is just a nobody, and she's just some desert dweller and that just has lived in sand and filth and has no loved ones. I love the fact that that just like in The Empire Strikes Back, like no one saw the whole "I'm your father" scene coming.
Right.
I'd imagine, and so no one saw that coming. And including Luke. And when he heard that, it was the absolutely most devastating thing he could have possibly heard. It wasn't just like, oh man. It was just like, my life is ruined now. So Rey, her whole life, this little, girl playing in the sand, she's like, my parents are coming. They're super cool. They just went out for a while, but they're coming back.
Right.
So when she hears your parents are actually not even worth mentioning in this movie because they're so pathetic, that's really devastating for her to hear, because it's like, wow, my parents didn't give a rat's ass about me. All they did was just leave me here, and like I think there was some reference that they got like drinking money, but whatever.
Yeah.
Regardless of where they went, they just left her there. So her whole life has basically been meaningless up until the last couple days of her life in these movies. So that's really, really hard for her to hear, and I love that. I love the fact that it's not the easy answer of, actually, your father is Yoda.
It doesn't,
or Obi-Wan.
It doesn't make it, hey, you're destined to be this. It's because you are no one, it almost allows you to kind of
make your own destiny.
Make your own destiny, and also like
you're not restricted.
Detach yourself enough from any of that emotion to then just focus on whatever her path will be from here on out.
Yeah.
Because again, John, I don't disagree with you, but because I also don't need I'm your daddy breakthrough in this next round.
And
I don't need
with
that.
all the plot points that we revisit with these movies, like that's one I'm okay with, and that's kind of like I'm okay with her not having parents. It's just really confusing when you have her have a memory thing when she touches the lightsaber about spacecraft leaving. A very high class spacecraft, the one that looked like Leia would be flying, and that's where it confused me because I'm like, my theory originally was
someone left Rey to protect her.
Well, did they do the same plot line where, remember how when they had the Luke and Leia, they kept one a secret, and then Darth Vader never knew. Maybe they did the same thing with her with the Solos. I don't know. I think she might be Han's daughter, which makes sense.
Interesting,
and why they have a connection between the two of them.
Yeah.
I think they're both just charismatic people, and charismatic people connect.
My complaint in 7 was, and I was actually just talking to Sean about this last night, the husband, that I disagree, or I didn't like how they handled the Han-Rey relationship, because we're to assume that she has this father-daughter connection very, very quickly. And it's like, okay, you meet him, and then by the time you land on whatever planet you landed on, all of a sudden, like, he's like daddy to you. And that, to me, is weird because not enough time in the storyline that we as viewers are watching has passed for us to understand that. And not enough time in the movie is assumed to have passed for that relationship to be logical.
Right.
So your theory gives strength to that, where it's just this innate connection because they are related, and I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, and again, who knows? I mean, it was just like,
I'm open to all
I like
of
all
it.
these theories, honestly.
I really do.
And
that's the great thing about Rey as a character is she has the potential to go off in all of these different directions, and I honestly would not be disappointed with any. I think if anything else, I'm most excited to see where she goes in this last one.
Yeah.
Like, forget the storyline of, like, continuing on the original characters.
Right.
Because she could almost be a separate movie, in my opinion. I love the original characters, and I love where they're going, but, like, Rey, I'm, like, slightly obsessed with.
Yeah, Rey's a
her.
really good character.
To piggyback off what you said about how there wasn't enough time for that relationship to have been built between her and Han, that's all throughout The Last Jedi.
It's like, God.
You know,
with Finn and Rose?
Yeah, specifically that. And
We're going to talk about... Let's talk about that now. Yeah, keep going.
Briefly, just and it's not just Finn and Rose, and I know that it's easy to point to them, but throughout the movie, it's happening. Everything is happening so quickly, and we can understand why they may be acting towards each other the way they are.
Right.
But then at the end of the movie, when the climax comes and people are like willing to die for each other and vice versa, like, we don't really care, right? There wasn't any...
There's not enough setup to get us emotionally invested in these
absolutely.
relationships.
Yes, 100%. And that was one thing. I watched The Empire Strikes Back a few days ago because that's my number one, and we're going to get into that in just a second here, our rankings. But there are times in A New Hope and there are times in Empire Strikes Back where they're building plot. They're building the relationship. They're showing you, like, yeah, they've been doing this for a little while here.
Right.
Like, or even if they jumped you into the story, like Return of the Jedi, you were still there.
Right.
Like, you still knew all the struggles. So it's tough because one of the arguments I never even thought of with Finn was, like, he was a janitor. Like, he was trained as a stormtrooper, but he was a janitor, and then he kills the general. Or I forget what her name is.
by the way, she's totally not dead either. She's like
You
Boba
think so?
Fett. She's just like this, like,
She is Boba
unkillable.
Fett. I mean, she is Brielle of Tarth, so she is unstoppable.
This is true. And I'm sure they're going to be Star Wars fans upset that I don't know the name of that character.
You told me in the car.
It's Phasma.
Phasma. That's right.
Thank you,
Is it
John.
Captain?
Captain
Captain Phasma?
Captain Chrome. She's
right,
got all
Captain
the chrome.
Chrome. There you
Yeah,
go. I'm just going to call her Brielle of Tarth because that's who she is.
All right, I have one more thing I want to touch on, and then we're going to get into the rankings.
Okay.
There's one thing I noticed from watching The Empire Strikes Back that had a connection with The Last Jedi. Because some people were saying how, The Last Jedi is it's like A New Hope. Like they're setting everything up again, and they're just rehashing the old plot line. But I thought it was one thing I thought that they did that was really cool was the connection between the parallel between Yoda's training for Luke and Luke's training for Rey. Like, that's very, very, very similar.
It is similar.
She comes to find Luke. Luke came to find Yoda. He kind of blows her off and makes her work for it. Yoda just kind of messed with him.
Yoda, remember, though, in Empire Strikes Back, Yoda at the beginning is just like, get out of here, kid. Like, I'm going to eat my muck because you're too old. I'm not going to train you. And then Obi-Wan is like, you better train him.
Yeah.
So if Obi-Wan hadn't intervened, Yoda was totally just giving Luke the cold shoulder. So, like, very much the same theme.
So, sorry, Aaron.
No.
So, the thing that I thought was really interesting and the same was that both Yoda and Luke as masters baited both trainees into going into the dark hole, because Luke goes into the dark hole on that planet. I never made that connection because I was
never
like, why
thought
is
of it
Luke so upset?
as the dark hole.
Yeah, I had to rewatch it because obviously in The Last Jedi it's prominent. You're like, that's a bad place to go. Like with the other one, it's just like he's already in a swamp.
He's just like behind some other trees.
Right.
And that specific relationship between Luke and Rey, not rushed, but I felt like more time could have been spent on the actual training on the island. Cut down a smidge on Luke's reluctancy. Like, we didn't need to see as much of him blowing her off time after time, and you could have given us a little bit more of the actual training that went in, because she has that awesome, lightsaber moment, and we're just to assume that she's that natural and never actually trains with Luke, because again, and overall, I was a little disappointed in the lack of lightsaber time in this movie, because every time we got it, that fight between Kylo
might be one of the best. Top 3
so
easily.
Beautifully choreographed. And that's what I loved about the prequel trilogies. Say what you will about the writing, about the characters, whatever.
But the Kung Fu
but the
Jedi
actual Jedi fighting is
Revenge of the Sith.
Oh
that scene
my god. The epic Obi-Wan Anakin, I just can't. So like, because now we have the technology and we have the ability to have these actors be so physically fit to be able to execute this wonderful fight choreography. It's just like, okay, we got that one,
right, and
then we got her, being awesome on her own. I could have just used more. I just want more.
Totally.
I could just eat it up.
Complete tangent. The red guys who were wearing those really weird suits, kind of cool. But one of them had like a bendable. It was like a quasi stick with lightsaber things, and he used it as kind of like this whip thing, and it could wrap around things. Yeah, that was just. It was a really simple twist, and it's not like this is a 4-bladed lightsaber. It's just like that actually makes a lot of sense. It's like a practical weapon, and it uses the same idea.
And they did a good job with the Stormtrooper stuff, with that light, I guess, electricity, plasma, whatever weapons. Cool. Yeah, it was
I'm
really
always
cool.
fascinated by, just in general, sci-fi weapon creations. I know I was ranting about Thor earlier, but in one of the Thor movies, they have this bomb that's almost turns itself into a black hole.
Thor, spoiler
alert for a Thor movie that came out 5-6 years ago. But literally, you throw this bomb at someone and it just sucks them in and disintegrates them. And I'm like, cool. This is fascinating.
Yeah, I love it. And that's why I don't want to limit the show to us talking about just space stuff, because it's sci-fi. Obviously, it would be great to have a little bit of space, which of course Thor does, so that's fantastic.
It really does.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many good sci-fi out there. I mean, Star Wars is one of the best. Yeah. So let me see. I wanted to finish up one more thought, and then we're gonna go rank. How did you guys feel about the burning of the Jedi Temple? Because I liked it a lot. I thought it was a good way, Luke. And I actually found this out because you make a good point. We don't know why Luke is so ornery and angry and old. We know why he's old, but we don't know why he's so miserable. And And what the StarWars.com was saying, which is really nice, they've, like, John, you were telling me it's a lot better now that Disney took it over. He apparently had painstakingly gone and got all those original texts. So all the time he's off on alone and doing all those other missions, maybe it was when he was training Ben Solo, we don't know. But he was clearly trying to, like, I don't know, bring the Jedi back or spent all this time trying to do it. And then here he is on this damn island, like, by himself with nobody else. He's a hermit. He's protecting these books that nobody gives two shits about.
Now, after seeing the movie, though, I did see the movie a second time. The books weren't in the tree when the tree burned down. Yeah, I didn't catch it the first time. I definitely did not catch it the first time. I was like, why would that was silly. But at the very end, and it's not like hidden, but I was so dumbfounded the first time, so I kind of like almost just glossed over the last 5 minutes. I was just like, I had no idea. I was thinking too much.
Yeah.
There's a brief shot in the final few minutes when they get on the Falcon, and they just open up a drawer, and in the drawer just so happens to be all of the books.
All of the books.
So at some point off camera,
Got it.
Rey must have been like, "Hey Luke, you're crazy. I'm gonna grab these books before you do something stupid like burn the tree down."
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think the burning of the tree was a little bit more symbolic of, you know, so far we've had 6 movies of this battle between light and dark, the Force versus the Sith, or the Jedi versus the Sith. And I think what it's, or at least how I'm interpreting it, is that in order to truly have balance, it can't be so extreme. Because the Jedi are assumed to be the light, the good, but if they're also striving for balance. And I could be misinterpreting that wrong, I'm sure.
I like that.
You know, so it's almost like we have to get rid of our old ways. So maybe it's the old school Jedi ways that it's symbolically, you know, ridding of, to then continue to on this journey to truly find balance and what that means and what it means to use the Force, you know, because again, if Rey is really no one, where I like this direction of Rey being no one is then that means anyone can use the Force.
And that's what the end of the movie
with
seemed.
that little kid, which I'm like, okay, I like this because, you know, that opens up so many doors to continue the story. Because if anyone can use the Force so long as they're trained, you know, then to me that shows that balance, this idea of balance is a little bit more achievable.
Yeah, and balance makes complete sense. When you light and dark, I mean, it's ones and zeros. That's binary. That's perfect. I mean, every time one would get strong, the other would get powerful. Like there would be one that would come up. Like it happened. It Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. I'm trying to think of the other ones where there are major shifts. The Phantom Menace, major shifts in the Force, and it's actually kind of interesting. I was looking at it and I was thinking about it. It's almost like it's just a constant flipping book of like who's in power.
Who's in power.
And it's just like one movie is the good guys getting back, one movie is the bad guys getting back.
Right. And so it's nice to finally have this moment of, you know, okay, let's just light it all up, man. Like,
yeah, and that's going to change the whole power dynamic because now if and it's something Luke had said to Rey, it's like you embraced the dark side like with no problem, and it makes a lot of sense when you think about Kylo because she's talking with him no problem. She's not even like trying to avoid him.
I loved that whole thing. That was really cool.
Yeah,
that
the mind
scene,
melt
super well
stuff.
done.
with the mirrors and her seeing herself, the
that was
snapping,
dope. Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, that was okay.
It was cool.
I got it. It was cool. It was cool. But specifically, everything with those two characters in the movie, like I could just watch them act together, and it was it was awesome.
They have really good chemistry. I don't ship them. I hate that I just used that term. Like I don't think they're necessarily bound. There's no love interest there.
Oh no, I don't.
And
think so.
I find anyone who wants there to be love there to be just like
That's
that would be
classic.
the easy answer.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
too easy.
Exactly.
I really like
Exactly.
this struggle of she just genuinely wants him on her side.
Well,
I don't know.
She embraces the dark side so much so that in such a way that she can see that you're just conflicted, dude.
Yeah.
Like you're not, and it made more sense. I wasn't like him lifting off the trigger when he was about to shoot that because the first time he killed Han, it made him weaker. So he was kind of like, I don't know if this is the right thing for me to do. It's not gonna help me.
One more thing we should talk about. What about that scene that immediately followed with the whole Leia thing? I have no
Mary
problem
Poppins
with it.
back
I
to
wasn't.
the,
That
ship.
was very Mary Poppins.
I wasn't like moved in any particular way. I was
No.
just like, oh, this is like I wasn't expecting this, and it looks a little weird, but like cool idea.
I would have been more moved if they had actually just killed her off. Honestly, because because there was this whole thing of no, she has a really important role in this movie. We're not killing her off, even though, you know, rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. We
Obviously,
love you.
yeah.
You know, this movie, you know, came so quickly after on the heels of her passing that I thought, oh, what if they just re-edited it and this is literally this is how they, you know, send Princess Leia off. And I would have been more okay if this was just the end of Leia versus like this weird like, oh, maybe she's dead, maybe she's not, because it came off a little insensitive of like this woman is actually dead.
We all thought she was dead. Like, oh, she's in
like,
space. Like that's
like,
it.
that's
Like
you're
you ain't coming
done.
back. Like that's
well, and that scene I thought was interesting because what I saw that scene as is they were introducing that there are different powers of the Force. It's not just the basic chokehold, stop a bullet, you know, manipulate a mind, which got me thinking. Because everyone that I talk to, and maybe you guys could think about this, like, does it piss you off that Leia never developed her powers?
No.
Okay.
No,
All right.
because
So
she
going
grew up
on
a
in that.
princess.
Going on in
She
that.
grew up a princess.
She grew up as princess.
But
So
she also-
I think she actually had powers, and it was very subtle. Like they never pointed it out. Like
Right.
think about all the times where she's with Luke. Darth Vader knows it's his son, but somehow they're able to get away and not really be noticed. How is Leia gone all this time, being completely cloaked and like basically not being seen? There's a scene in Empire Strikes Back where she looks at Darth Vader, and it's almost like what I got out of it was she's almost reading his mind, as like because she says to Luke, "It's a trap." Afterwards,
Right,
why would she know that?
and I
mean,
think-
I guess she knew that because it was already a trap.
Well,
but-
and there's this whole, and maybe it's just the twin thing, but like she's also like, oh, you're my sister, and then she's like, oh yeah, you're right, I am. Where it's a very quick convince.
But you had to really get quick through that scene because the last time this brought
yeah.
up, they kissed.
Yeah,
so
that's
you kind of
very
had
true.
to run through
you
that
did
scene.
have to go through it quickly, but I think in some way, not only just they're connected because they're twins, but also I think there is some kind of Force-like connection between them. I do think she has an ability to utilize the Force. I just don't think she wishes to do it, you know, wield lightsabers and, you know.
I felt like her powers were probably like stealth for sure.
Yeah.
And some kind of like mind reading, like being able to like tell someone's motives because
good
like
foresight. Just like
Yeah,
things
to
that, like,
grow
not
a rebellion, that's a
superhuman.
I was
really
gonna say,
valuable
and she
thing.
was a pretty successful general in
Yeah.
these. Like she's, you know, she's a war general. So if, like having these.
and Darth Vader did. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just was gonna say having these, you know, innate abilities of like being able to kind of anticipate what the other side is thinking has probably led to her success. If that's
Yeah.
truly what her Force powers, for
Right.
lack of a better term, if that's what they really are, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and it's funny because what prompted it was someone I was talking to was like, "Oh, she's never developed her powers. Like, why would she just all of a sudden be able to fly back and save herself?" And I was kind of like, "Yeah, that's a good point." And then I was just thinking about it, like, I don't know, maybe there is something.
She's
but
been
it's
practicing. They're like, all right, put me out there. All right, let's send you in space. Boom. She probably got a couple practice runs in.
I would hope so.
Maybe.
Because you don't really just want to go cold turkey on that. You want to
Right.
warm up a little bit, maybe do a stretch or two. You know, it's not comfortable.
But if we go with the belief that anyone can use the Force and it's not just the Jedi, that then gives validity to that scene of she can just
Even if
move
she wasn't
herself
trained,
because
yeah.
she knows she might be the secret one to know that anyone can use the Force.
I don't think it's so much anyone, but just a lot more people than we've been led
Right.
to believe.
Like if
Not
you
anyone can
believe
be
in
a
the Force
Jedi, but a
enough.
Jedi can be anyone.
yeah, something.
Yeah.
Like it can come from anywhere.
Part
is
of me
what I'm
just
saying.
wants
Yeah.
to go, no,
I know.
no.
But it just opens up because this is, and John and I were talking about this on the ride here, with the like mass killings of the Jedi in 3. So what, you're gonna leave it up to the lone Jedi who, based off of their own rules, can't reproduce to repopulate this dying, you know,
And maybe
religion.
that's why he's so miserable. on
Maybe
that
that's
island.
why he's so
This is fine.
miserable. You know? So this is where I I like the train of thought of anyone can be, because then it gives hope, the theme throughout all of the movies, that the Jedi, maybe not Jedi that we once knew before, but the new Jedi can be reinstated to bring balance to the galaxy.
I think we can all agree that the Force Awakens was the cleansing of the past. Sorry, not the. It was just the. Here's the refresher. If you haven't been in this a while, this is kind of what we do.
Get your sea legs.
Yeah.
Right. And then the second movie was, okay, now that you've all been reintroduced, forget all that stuff. Here is sort of what we will be delivering over the next, movie, couple years, decades, whatever it is. Like, we're going to go, like, in this kind of direction now.
Right.
They don't have to be bound to the old movies. They shouldn't be.
It's just having the experience I have with the show. Trying to completely revitalize a series for the third time and then trying to pick it in a direction that people are going to be happy with, that's damn near impossible.
Has that ever happened? That's a genuine question.
James Bond.
Yeah.
That's okay.
James Bond.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of, like, what other phenomena has this actually ever happened, let alone have been successful. I mean, James Bond's a great example.
Yeah, but they've been sort of continuous the whole time. So it's not.
It's not the same, but it's probably
the only thing I can think of is the comic book series, the Avengers movies, the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
The Marvel movies and the DC movies.
I was gonna say, I think more DC than has Marvel done multiple installations of anything?
The Avengers, they did 2.
I was
they're
gonna say,
going
I'm
to.
sure
Like,
they will.
we should do make more money. Let's remake all these movies.
I mean,
again.
I'm not talking like, because to me, there's a difference between releasing the Star Wars, where they released 3 sets of trilogies
Over decades,
versus Marvel just like banging out all these movies that at some point are all going to coincide. Like, to me,
they're different for
that's
sure.
more of if we started with like the Rogue Ones and the Han Solo story, and we had all these introductions, and then it led to the release of Star Wars.
I don't like that. I don't
like it either.
I like getting the meal first,
right?
And like, I'll take some appetizers on the side.
A little
but, like,
buffet.
Give me the meal. I don't want like a whole bunch of appetizers, and then at the end is the meal. Like, no, like, give me the meal.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm going to do a little short stop, because I really liked, and I'm interested to see, and I don't know if when we had this conversation, if Rogue One was a thing yet.
So let's do this.
John has a theory about how one should watch the order of the movies. Now that we live in a world post Luke, I am your father world, to go about it watching it so it's not super spoily.
Okay, so assuming that you've never seen any Star Wars movies, because why else would you be watching this?
Because you've been living under a rock.
Right, so, and actually, I don't even include Rogue One in this, not because it's bad, but just because, like, it doesn't matter for this conversation.
No, it doesn't really.
So, assuming that you've never seen it, or if in some day you want to show someone young or whatever who's never seen it, you would go New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Phantom Menace. Because think about it, at the end of the Empire Strikes Back, you don't know like anything about the Emperor, right? You don't know anything about the Emperor. He's just that, like, he's in that one hologram scene or whatever in the Empire Strikes Back. That's all you know about him. That's it. So then you go back to Han is frozen in the slab and mailed off to the slug, and then you go
to the slug.
And then you go back to the Phantom Menace, and you meet this dude, and his name is Palpatine. And in all the original movies, you never know that the Emperor's name is Palpatine. They just say like he's the Imp or the Emperor or whatever they call him. I think it's Imp.
No, I don't think it's Emperor.
Pretty sure it's Emperor. I don't even know if they refer to him as anything.
So you would go New Hope, Empire, Phantom, and then the Clones.
Revenge
of the Sith.
Don't even watch Clones. Yeah. But then at the end of the Revenge of the Sith, you get another I am your father moment, because
you get the
learn
reveal of Palpatine.
Oh, Palpatine, you're actually the Emperor. So you get a little extra. And then after Revenge of the Sith, then you go back, do Return of the Jedi.
Interesting.
And then you just continue
7,
onwards.
8,
and then whatever, watch Rogue One.
We'll have to put that up in writing, because if anyone's listening to this and hasn't watched Star Wars,
it's a good way to go about it.
It's just a giant spoiler.
I was like skeptical at first, but then I really thought of it. Like, if God forbid, if I ever have children, and you want it, or if
you just get married.
No.
You're one step closer.
I
one
am
step
your
closer.
godfather.
Oh God, here we go. No, so it's just forget children. Like, if you want to expose someone to this franchise in a very not old school way, but like coming about it from the original of like the 1970s releases. I think that's good because again, there is in this, you know, in our spoiler culture, you know, there's so much value in like the big climaxes of certain storylines, and it's not necessarily, you know, anyone's fault for missing out on it. Right. So if you want to go about watching it in an appropriate way where you're not, you know, being spoiled a bunch of things, I think it's cool. I like it.
I like that approach, John. Thank you.
I've never actually tried to watch it that way as myself because I've always like.
I may watch it that way.
Yeah,
I may slip Rogue One in there.
Well, Rogue One would fit in after 3.
Yeah, you could do that.
Or you could start with like Rogue One.
But anyways, I like your you could save that for the end totally.
Yeah,
that would be like a nice.
And then it would end on the like absolute best scene maybe in all of Star Wars with the whole. And I mean I love like a whole bunch of Star Wars scenes.
You talking Darth Vader?
Yeah.
But that may be just like the best like 30-second
scene.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh good. We're in agreement.
Cool. Wow, that's the first time all night.
Hey, now we're in agreement. Let's totally erase that.
Yeah, and we're going to disagree on this.
Today in Space review. So, what I'm going to do while Erin and John put up their scores,
or do you want to do it?
we are actually going to be ranking the entire series. So that's the original 3, the first 1, 2, and 3, and then the last 2 here and Rogue One. So I had it number 1 as Empire Strikes Back, number 2 A New Hope, and number 3, which might be controversial for some people, is Rogue One. And the reason I put that above number 4, which is I put it so The Last Jedi actually becomes number 4. Number 5 becomes Return of the Jedi, and the reason I put it lower is because if you guys have listened to the show before and we've talked about Star Wars, I really don't like John, you ready for this? The Ewoks. The Ewok planet for me is a complete distraction. It doesn't fit with the movie for me. I get why they did it. I just don't like it.
Isn't it so cool how they go to this crazy alien planet and it's a forest.
It's Care Bears.
It's just a forest.
Yeah.
That's not cool. It's just a whole bunch of trees.
So 9 is the worst, right?
9's the bottom.
9, or yes, at least my lowest.
1 is number 1, and is your favorite.
And I will preface, these might be controversial.
That's okay. That's what the show's about.
They're also up for debate and change.
So give us your top 4. So we've got 4.
Okay.
Give us your top 4.
My top 4. My favorite of all time is Revenge of the Sith. Whoa. Now, I went about this and I asked myself, when you told me that this is what we're doing, I asked myself, what is either the one that I've watched the most times or could watch every day and not get sick of it? Okay. Revenge of the Sith. Okay. Specifically for the, kind of what you were saying, the reveal of Palpatine, Anakin finally turning to the dark side, the epic battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin. I love the whole the execution of the Jedi. It's where I find the use of CGI Yoda to be extremely beneficial because as soon as they're all being killed off, we have that like close up of his face, like feeling the pain, feeling their death, and I'm like, well, you can't do that with a puppet. I love me some puppet Yoda, but you can't do that with a puppet.
And they did some great stuff with the puppet. That first scene, Emperor Strikes Back.
I will say that the stick that he drops in that scene. Totally does not exist. It's like, that is totally that is a computer generated image. I've ever seen one.
So, and also kind of going off what you were saying about how, and I never thought of it this way, how Palpatine's reveal is kind of like our generation's "I am your father."
But it's not a reveal though.
It's not really a reveal
because it's already known for us.
But
for the characters,
but it's not necessarily for me. Because when I was exposed to these movies, I was exposed to 1, 2, and 3 first. I never watched 4. Yeah. So as going,
I didn't know
so
that.
going at this,
you said 1, 2, and 3, and of course I thought 4, 5, and 6.
So going at this from truly probably how some of my students are going at it, where 7, 8, and 9 are like the first ones they're seeing.
Right.
That was like the big reveal. So to me, it holds a lot of like nostalgia to it, where it's like, wow, I loved these movies as a kid, and this was like the big one. So that one's my controversial one. Okay. But I have some real strong feelings about it.
That's okay.
And then 2 was The Force Awakens. again, because I thought it brought us back into the world really, really well. 3, we are the same on Rogue One.
Word.
It was 3 because it's real good, but it was also really close to Return of the Jedi. I love Return of the Jedi. I don't know why. I love the Ewoks. I know you're all just bashing Ewoks.
Well, even John actually spent a good amount of time trashing that, but that's okay. Yeah,
but I mean,
it's easy.
the same
It
reason why
easy.
you probably hated the Porgs, and I love the Porgs. Give me like a cute little animal.
I love those Porgs.
That's just like stupid and cute. So I love Return of the Jedi because I think it wraps up. I think it ties all the loose ends pretty nicely.
Yeah, but the
and
Porgs weren't like killing stormtroopers, though.
That's
No,
true.
the
With
Ewoks
rocks
were.
and strings.
Hang on.
Never
These-
mind,
these-
sorry.
It's
I'm
not
Ewoks are
rocks,
like-
poop. I'm 90% sure it's
hard
their
poop.
own poop.
That would make sense.
It
Yeah,
would.
you know,
But
you gotta
again,
use what you have. I mean,
I think they're cute. I thought it was a creative little, so that's top 4.
So to be clear, so you've named your top 4, and
Yeah.
none of the original 3 are in your top 4.
Well, no, Return of the Jedi is 6.
And I'll say,
Okay.
Return of the Jedi, the second half of the movie is arguably, if that's by itself, that's
Is
the
really
best.
good.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I was
number
gonna
one
say
for me.
I
But
find
because I hate the Ewoks so much, I put it lower.
I find all the original trilogies to move a bit slower than any of the newer ones. I think just being of
The time.
It
was different storytelling. Yep.
so I do think it moves a bit slow, but I think it holds a lot of weight. Yeah, and it's again, notice 5 is Empire Strikes Back because 3, 4, and 5 are all extremely close to each other. Like I had to rack my brain to really decide where I wanted to place these. This is where I have room for disagreement. That's
Cool.
specifically where I have room for
Cool.
disagreement. Is 3,
No,
4, and 5.
it's interesting because that's you. It almost looks like from your ranking, if we look at the data,
Yeah.
it kind of looks like you're, watching in the order that you did definitely seemed to have an
It
influence
has
on
a
you.
huge
Yeah.
influence on it, which
Yeah.
I think is a really
Interesting fact
really
for you guys.
interesting predicament.
Yeah.
I think it sheds a lot of light because I've had conversations in the past with people who were alive when the original trilogies
Yeah.
were released. And then when I say to them, but guys, I didn't see a Star Wars movie until Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Like, that was the first one that I saw. They then get this look of, oh, okay. And they kind
Yeah.
of, like, get my take on Star
Yeah.
Wars. Because it's not like I don't like the original trilogy.
Right.
I just don't have the same sentiment about it.
No, that makes complete sense.
So I always kind of, like, make sure people are aware. The first Star Wars movie I saw was Phantom Menace, not
I mean,
A New
listen,
Hope.
if you lead it that way, yeah, people
Right.
are gonna be like, okay. All
So
right,
we're just a quick
We
hour.
we
We're a quick hour
understand.
into this
We
conversation, and
understand.
I'm going to lead with that. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so you and I have the same, Alex. You and I have the same 1, 2. I'd
So
say
Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope.
I can watch either of those, and I think the gap between them is very small. I can
Yeah.
watch either, and honestly, if I was to flip a coin,
Yeah.
maybe tomorrow I'm going to say New Hope is better. I
Yeah.
love the characters in A New Hope. I love all of it. So Empire 1, New Hope 2. I don't think I need any more explaining. I put The Last Jedi 3 because, like I just said, I really like the characters, and I know that we were talking about how some of the character relationships were really rushed, but I loved Luke in this movie. I loved the Rey Kylo thing.
Yeah.
I loved when Yoda came back. Even though his appearance was very brief and kind of pathetic, I liked the Snoke stuff.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I loved all of the settings of the movie. I thought it was great. Even though they didn't really go to any like cool planets, they went to like the casino world for a little while. That
Yeah.
was cool. They went to the salt world, which
I
was
loved
cool.
the
Salt
Salt
World
World.
was
The
really
salt
awesome.
world was awesome.
Yeah.
But even
Sounds like SeaWorld, but not.
it's funny how they made this place that's like very bleak and like just kind of pathetic looking. They made it look so beautiful. All the
it
red
was-
and it was
Yeah.
just
It was
really
very
great.
reminiscent of Hoth, I found.
Yeah.
Like, for a second, when they
Oh,
found the old...
that whole setup.
That
yeah.
whole, and I was like, are we really back here?
Yeah,
But then I was
yeah.
like, but this doesn't
Yeah.
make sense because, again, having seen the trailer like a couple times, they used that shot of those, the aircraft going across the sand and having it blow up red dust behind them, which
Yeah.
is fantastic. Like,
Yeah,
it was
visually it
beautiful,
was
visually
beautiful, yeah.
fantastic. But I was like, but that's not Hoth. But it was like really cool how they kind of, it was almost like a little nod to it, and I appreciated that a
Yeah.
lot.
My number 4 is, you know what, you actually just convinced me. I think if you asked me an
Wow.
hour ago, I would have
Yes.
said, and these are all very close, at least at the top, but I liked The Force Awakens, but it's really rushed. It's basically just a lot of the same stuff recycled, which is cool, but like that. Minus points for that. Revenge of the Sith, they go to all of the cool looking worlds.
Yeah.
The movie's so rich. The writing is terrible, but the movie, I mean, if you watch it on mute, it's awesome.
Yeah.
As long as you have the music makes it too, and the music in that one is excellent. Music in The Force Awakens, not great.
Music in The Phantom Menace,
maybe
amazing.
It's like almost just as good as the original movies.
That ending song that they do with like the children's choir singing.
Oh wait, what? You're going for that?
That song is cool. I'm not saying it's the best song in the movie.
You just made a great point and then just ruined the point.
I'm just saying it's like one of those really. Again,
how about the lightsaber duel music?
Well, yes,
Duel of the Fates. That's like it's still iconic.
That's classic, and I play that. I literally play that song for my students.
When Revenge of the Sith came out and watched that in the movies, like I had that soundtrack on probably like a month, just listening to that and like seeing the movie in my head and like playing it all over again. Like was
The Phantom Menace was actually. Because it was the first one I saw, that Christmas after seeing that movie, I got the soundtrack and I listened to it obsessively. Like, and
that is good.
Like, I'm gonna get real with you. I would like play Barbies to the music of Star Wars.
Wow.
Yeah. I also had a little Pikachu. I don't know how he played into the story, but he was there. Yeah.
Okay,
that's how
I'll
big
admit
I was.
that I definitely played Legos. With Barbies, sometimes I get no, not Barbies, but definitely Legos, the Lego Star Wars, all that stuff. We were sold that we were 9, so bingo, like they made their money.
They did.
All right, so now let's get into like the bottom half now.
Yeah.
So
bottom 3.
I see we're in agreement.
Yeah, look at that.
For the most part.
Yeah, so we all have what is it? Attack of the Clones and the Phantom Menace in our bottom 3.
Yeah.
Let's see where it differs here. I had The Force Awakens as number 7.
Yeah, that's harsh.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
pretty harsh. Yeah,
Where's that come from?
expectation going into the movie.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one I didn't go into expectation, and it was really, really good.
Yep.
John, you had Return of the Jedi as number 7. Really giving it to the Return of the Jedi.
You know what? I still love the movie.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love all of these movies, but I'm not a huge fan of Jabba and his whole like everyone. I feel like everyone in that palace. George Lucas back then was like, crap, we have 24 hours to make 30 aliens and we don't have any equipment. Give me that blue jumpsuit, give me that lampshade, and they were just like grabbing random
They put
stuff.
a lot of humans in costumes for sure.
And then like the pig characters too. Like
The pig characters are a bit much.
they were very weird. Just like there's a lot of things in that movie that I'm just not like. Plus the Ewoks.
Yeah.
There's just.
I can't believe the Ewoks are a negative for you guys. Like, I can't believe that's a thing.
And the music.
All right.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to go on it again, but yeah.
All right.
And Aaron, you had.
I have The Last Jedi
Wow.
as
Okay,
7.
interesting. Why is that?
The humor, again, it's just...
Okay, that
everybody's-
really
I was
was
going to
a-
say, it was really the big thing that got me, again, the assumed relationships over and over again we're finding in these movies. And I had the same complaint about The Force Awakens, but again, it's too because I was so excited to just come back into it. With The Last Jedi, I'm like confused about these filmmakers rushing these storylines. Is it really because they don't think they have the time to tell the story, or do they just not have faith in the public to sit and watch a 3+ hour movie?
No, I'm not even sure if it's
Like,
any of those.
I would happily sit down and watch this movie for an extra hour if
Right.
you're gonna actually set up any sort of chemistry between Finn and Rose. I'm down I'm
That
down.
was a whole one-way relationship.
And then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh yeah, you sacrificed yourself for me, so I love you," which like happens time again.
I think he said that with a question mark at the end, though.
I love you, like that.
To be continued.
To be continued.
There was definitely a
Maybe.
weird reaction when she kissed him.
Which I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. It's fine.
Yeah.
It would
He
have
may
been
not
weird.
like women. I'm just saying.
Maybe, yeah.
He
Maybe
may not
he's
like
a
women.
Poe
Because
guy.
what I was
Who
gonna
doesn't
say,
like
Well,
Poe?
that
I
bite lip,
love
that,
it.
that lip bite
I
in
love
The Force Awakens.
Poe Finn, I'm all for. I wish there was a cute like couple's name for them because I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it.
Pope.
Pof.
Pof.
But yeah, so just like my general complaints, and it's just getting a little rushed. And I don't think I liked it as much as I liked J.J. Abrams' take on it. So that's why I'm excited for the next one. But yeah, that was my 7. And then obviously we all are basically matching for the bottom because I'm sorry, Attack of the Clones is a waste of my time. Attack of the Clones is awful.
Attack of the Clones sets up a lot of stuff that you need for the third movie. It's really just it's laying the groundwork for the whole downfall of the Jedi. And they set up the whole thing about like where they came from and Boba
It's setting up the whole murder scene because someone's got to kill the Jedi and it's got to be the clones, so we got to find the clones. But that scene when they all sorry, go ahead. No,
finish.
I was going to say the only thing that I hate about it is just the god awful Anakin Padme relationship. It's just like, guys, try to be convincing. Like, it's not even remotely. It's just like so awkward. Every little thing they do makes me like uncomfortable because they just don't like the actors didn't seem to even remotely want to be in the same room together, let alone be forced to like love each other. It's just awkward, and I never liked it.
It's an interesting dynamic they put into it because it's almost like what I felt was they were trying to show like a stressful relationship.
Yeah,
like they're clearly just stressed beyond belief. He's having these dreams all the time that they're dying. You know, she's trying to figure out what the hell's going on with him. Like, and she's pregnant at the same time. They're trying to hide all that stuff.
That's 3.
Is that 3? Yeah. So anyways.
2 is where they like run away to Naboo together and they like get married. At the last scene, the like wedding in front of the lake is so dumb. I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Awful. I'm glad you had to do that.
With this like fake,
the movie.
Yeah,
I hate it.
It's fake, shiny, like skeletal hand grabbing her hand. It's just so weird.
It was weird.
It's all very weird.
If there's one reason,
it was necessary, unfortunately.
It was to set up like where Luke and Leia came from. I just wish it was done better. That's my only complaint. Like, I don't hate that, you know, there's a love story. I'm not anti-love story. I'm just anti them telling a bad love story.
Would Attack of the Clones been better if it was just like a half-hour long scroll, like at the start of the movie, and it's just like a half hour of them just
Star Wars Episode 1.5.
Oh, look at that! That's how that happens. Oh, okay. Oh, this sounds dumb. I'm glad I'm not watching this. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you probably could have gotten in a whole scroll what happened in that. Yeah.
If there's one reason that I really... So I have... Aaron, you and I both have Attack of the Clones dead last.
Yeah.
You have, and with The Phantom Menace, a very close second.
Yeah.
And you have them flipped. The only reasons I would argue for this, Phantom Menace... We got the awesome... First off, we got Qui-Gon, who's awesome.
Yep.
Plus, we got probably the best lightsaber scene. Like, probably. I mean, Darth Maul, super cool.
That's a good scene.
And there was a lot in that scene. Like, there was jumping up and down platforms. There was that whole, like, shield thing, which didn't make sense
that.
why it was there, but it was cool.
It's a thermo shield. So that's why they have to shut them off and, like, chill, because it's literally picking up their heat, and when the heat goes off, I don't know what kind of, like, security thing, but, like, I'm pretty sure...
Where are they? They're just in, like, a big,
they're in, like, a...
facility.
With, like, beams. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it looks cool. Like, and that's the point.
I like the giant abyss that he falls into.
Yeah.
Dude, when he gets cut in half, and his body, you're just like, damn. Like, as a kid, you're like, whoa.
Yeah. 9-year-old me was pretty shocked. And then I kid you not, I was proud of myself that I didn't cry. I was like, all right, cool. All right, I can handle this movie. I made it. I did it, guys.
For only those reasons, that's why I would put the Phantom Menace just barely above. And the dialogue is so bad in both of them. It's somehow worse, though. And mostly because it's, what's his name? Hayden Christensen, right?
Yeah.
Just, you know what? It's not on him. He was given lines. The lines
and
were awful.
He was good. I thought he had the angst of, like, someone who...
I was going to say...
Because I was thinking back on it.
In
like,
3, he had good angst.
In 3, he was great. Like, and something I read on StarWars.com again, because, again, I'm not a full nerd, and I was learning these things, and I was really excited. Like... Darth Vader was also trying to eliminate the Jedi as well. And so it's cool that it kind of all ended up that the Jedi and potentially the Sith are over with The Last Jedi. But with this original part, like, I don't know, it just seemed really interesting to me that he almost wanted to do it differently. You know what I mean? Like how his training was.
He wanted to get married.
He wanted to get married.
Have a kid.
Well, that too. But like how he approached the Force was different than
He didn't necessarily
they forced
believe
him almost to the dark side.
I was going to say he didn't necessarily and never really catered to the idea of it has to be all or nothing. And again, we're led to believe that Anakin is the chosen one to bring balance to the Force.
Right.
So perhaps
he did.
just in a misunderstood way was unable to bring balance to the Force because he was pushed so far to one side versus the other.
And I think there could have been... See, and that's the thing, is when they always talk about balancing the Force, it's like, but it's a balance. And he did do
Right.
that. He did balance the Force. You know,
How,
obviously,
though?
he tipped it, but, like, the first when with Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader, they tipped the scale.
Right.
So obviously it flipped over, but he could have easily, and then with his son,
right.
ended up flipping it back and really leveled the Force as far as like Jedi and people with the Force are concerned. So like he did technically. It's not as fun that way though.
No.
Cool. This is awesome. So let's see what our average
All right, math, go.
math. Okay, so The Last Jedi, we have 4, 3, and a 7. Let's see. Gonna do that math there? Appreciate it.
It's a 4.
So 4.6 out of 9. So cool.
Very
1
cool.
being obviously the best movie of the entire series, and 9 being I'm probably gonna watch it once. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like where we landed it.
All right, what do we have for 7?
I want to make sure I did this right. 7 plus 5 plus 2.
Oh boy, math people.
No, I know.
It's 14 divided by 3.
Is exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So 4.6.
4.7. Let's not mess with fractions here.
7. I did that one though. I did The Force Awakens is the same thing. 4 point.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
Really? So, that's the whole crux. That's the argument. Which one of those movies is better?
That's really interesting.
And they're both 4.66.
And they're both 4.6, which is basically middle of the road. If we're going out of 9.
Balance.
Ah.
Balance.
Remarkable. All right. What do you have for Return of the Jedi?
I've got 5.3.
5.3 for Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then the next one is 116, right? No,
Yep.
115.
Yes.
You're right.
Yes. This is why she's a teacher.
This is
Exactly.
why I'm the teacher. 2.3.
Okay. Empire Strikes Back at 2.3.
My penmanship shows.
It's definitely
why
gonna be
I'm
the
not
highest.
The teacher.
Yeah. All right. And then A New Hope is 226.
I'll help you out here.
And that's 3.3. I can't do
This
math.
is
3.
just an amazing podcast right here.
2.6.
Spectacle.
The spectacle of math and averages, folks.
2.7, you said?
Oh, wow.
2.7.
So just to give you guys the rundown here, this is very interesting to watch these movies pile up with our averages. I didn't expect this going into this episode, but
3.6.
this is
This
pretty
is a lot
interesting.
closer than I thought.
It is a lot closer. I'm really interested to see where this lines up.
So now Attack the Clones next.
Attack of the Clones is next. We're getting close, folks. We're getting close.
9.9.
And it looks... I don't want to give away too much of it.
8.6.
We'll break it down here in a second. Oof. It's a big drop off at the bottom.
And this
That
one,
is
and this one
basically-
must be just slightly higher.
There,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is 8.3.
All right, so folks,
So-
if we're looking at the data, what it looks like is that the original 3 are holding up at the top altogether by average, with Return of the Jedi actually being the first, the best movie.
Empire.
Strikes
Oh,
Back.
good Empire.
Oh,
Empire
okay.
Strikes
See,
Back.
Don't
we're
you mess
not-
with Empire.
See?
Don't you mess with
So,
that.
well, I was confused. I was like, I can't believe this.
It's Empire Strikes Back,
Oh,
then
so-
Rogue One.
Oh, interesting. All right, so John, break this down for me, buddy. So we got Empire.
So we've got Empire. We've got Rogue One
One.
finishing second overall.
We've got, then that's
Revenge
Revenge
of the Sith.
Sith.
I'm glad you
Tip
guys
of the
know where
scale.
those lines are because I'm
Then
confused.
it's a tie between Last Jedi and
Okay,
The Force Awakens.
no ties. Which one did you like more?
The Force Awakens.
Which one did you like more?
Oh, The Last Jedi.
I like Last Jedi too.
All right,
Last
do
Jedi
it.
wins.
No, that's fine. I'm okay with that because
Last. And then we have Force.
yeah.
Where does that leave us?
Then that leaves us to Return of the Jedi. So Return
Interesting.
followed
Very,
by
very interesting.
The Phantom Menace, followed by attack. So Phantom Attack.
All right, folks. So here is the official Today in Space.
Wait, we're missing one.
Order. We're missing one.
New
What?
Hope.
You didn't
What?
line these up very well.
New Hope.
A New Hope is...
New Hope is
3.3. So that would go between...
Math.
Oh, that goes above Rogue One. No.
No.
Yes, it does. It does. Sorry.
Does it? Okay.
Hope.
All right, so we've got number 1, Empire Strikes Back. Number 2, A New Hope. Number 3, Rogue One. Number 4, Return of the Sith. Number 5, The Last Jedi. Number 7, right?
6.
Force Awakens. I can't do counting on my fingers, apparently. Number 7,
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi. Number 8 is The Phantom Menace. And number 9 at the very bottom is Attack of the Clones, which I don't think anyone's going to argue
That
with.
movie sucks.
I can hear the people rioting outside already.
Seriously.
Pitchforks.
But interesting. This is pretty cool. I didn't expect that.
I like this.
Yeah, this is pretty cool, man. Composite average. This is our review. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Math
What's our
is almost
next?
as fun as
What's
Star
our
Wars.
next analysis? Let's pick another franchise. Let's stick
We
with the
should do this.
sci-fi
I like this.
stuff.
Yeah, we'll have to get back together, do another episode
I
like
love
this. I
it.
like it. So let's see. I think one more thought. I'm gonna check my notes here. But guys, thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for
This has
having
been
us.
fun.
Believe me, we've just been looking for a place to vent all of our love and anger about Star Wars.
About Star Wars. We needed a safe space. Thank you for providing that safe
There are no safe
space.
spaces here.
No.
But I'm glad you felt safe.
This was so fun. I love these movies so much.
Let's see.
That's why it was so hard to do the ranking, though.
Ranking's tough. I mean, I definitely changed my mind. I originally had Rogue One over, I believe it was A New Hope, and then I thought about it, and I was like, nope, I would watch A New Hope to front to back more
Yeah.
times than I would watch Rogue One. So that definitely went up there.
And to be fair, if you were to ask me in about a week, I'd probably give you a very slight variation.
Yeah.
Number 1, number 9, still the same.
I was
Same
gonna say,
number 2.
I think these would all change if I watched the movies again. Like, it's just been a while.
Especially in the order that I...
Yeah, let's do it in the new
yeah.
order and then, like, really see where our thoughts are.
Yeah.
Also, before we go, just like a weird thought, weird sad thought.
Okay.
How sad is it that the only character left alive in the movie is the only actor of the original 3 that has passed?
Yeah.
Luke and Han are both now done with these.
Dark
Not done
irony.
Yeah.
because Luke probably will come back as ghostly Luke. But I just like had a moment at the end of Last Jedi
Yeah.
of like, oh, that sucks. Like the
Yeah.
one character that's actually still alive of the original 3
Yeah, there's no...
can't
yeah.
be in the next, or I don't
I
know
know.
if she is or not.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know because they always... George Lucas always, and just Star Wars, they'll film stuff ahead of time.
They'll
for the
film stuff
future.
ahead of time. Not to mention, in true George Lucas style, he was always, ahead of the curve of, technologically enhanced
Yeah.
effects, which
And planning for them ahead of time,
which
too.
Sometimes were used efficiently and effectively. Sometimes were not.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say I, as a late bloomer to Star Wars, have never watched Return of the Jedi without
The added extra stuff.
the added extra stuff. Like I've never seen the
What stuff?
original Ghost Anakin. I've only ever seen it be
Oh,
No,
Hayden
yeah.
it's
Christensen.
fine. It's just
no,
like,
I know
it's
it's
just
fine,
some dude. It
but it's
doesn't
like
have any,
one of those
yeah.
things where
lasting impact.
because I've never seen it not be Hayden Christensen, I've never not seen it with all the other garbage that he throws in there that doesn't match.
How about
Love you,
this?
George
There is-
Lucas.
Briefly, so if you've only seen it that way, there is one moment that in the original the first 9 original Return of the Jedis, Darth Vader just at the end, in his mind is saying, "I gotta do something. I gotta do something. I gotta do something," and then he just picks up the Emperor and throws him down the well.
No.
And then in the 10th special edition special,
The
whatever,
Super Duper special.
whichever one is the most recent. They now added in the, what did you say?
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm lost. Oh, no.
Why did they do that? It completely ruins that whole scene. It's one of the reasons why I rank it so low. Just for that reason alone, it's like the
That-
climax
yeah,
of the
that did it
whole
for you.
series, and they throw in this wailing, like whoever yells out, "No!" No one does. No one's ever said that ever in real life.
No.
No?
No.
Oh.
No.
No.
Like, have you ever failed a test and you, like, the teacher walks by, they put an F on you? No! No one ever does that.
It's not possible.
Oh, I hate it.
All right, last thought for you guys. And it kind of ties it back to what we talk about today in space and, like, what living life in space is going to be like. And this is two things that I thought were really, really interesting that I hope the future provides for us in space. Everyone who seemed competent at all could fly and pilot a spaceship. They could fix a spaceship. Like, there was never, I know it's obviously the writing and it's not real, but I like to think that's a good way to go for the future. Like, they could do things. They were self-sustaining in space, and it was like if we did try to do it now, if we tried to fly a spaceship, nearly impossible.
We would.
But
if it was the three of us trying to fly a ship,
no,
we're not
never
going
learned before,
anywhere.
not happening. But if, like, we can get to a point where, like, yeah, you know what? Just like getting your driver's license, it's like, oh, you're gonna learn how to pilot a spaceship. Like, I want that to be a future that we get to eventually. Not everyone has to, but that's really cool. I like that idea of traveling through space in that way, where it's like anyone can just figure it out and get out there and do it.
You know, you should look up sometime. I think it was the History Channel did a special. I don't know if it was a series or if it's just like an hour long or whatever, of the realism of Star Wars and like what in the franchise. And again, this was before the new ones. It was like,
right.
I was going to say it might have been coming out because of, like whatever the other ones, the middle ones. But they go in depth of what in the movies is accurate, what is inaccurate, and what is actually possible / on the way to being part of our reality. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's History Channel. You should look it up on like YouTube and see if it's on there.
That's cool. I would like that.
I watched it and I loved it. Unfortunately, I think I remember them saying that like lightsabers not a possibility.
Yeah, no.
Because to encapsulate whatever that
certain distance,
material would be would shatter upon use, but encapsulating whatever it is that is inside, again, in Star Wars, it's like it's a crystal, but obviously in real life it would be something else. You could encapsulate it in a bullet type, in a bullet shape, and use it as one of the laser blasters. Yeah. It's totally possible.
Hot take, I guarantee before we die, someone will make a lightsaber, only because there are so many crazy fans devoted to making a lightsaber.
I'm not saying this isn't possible.
No, I mean
I'm just saying
someone will make one.
I don't think it's going to be ready for combat.
Actually, we're going to get lasers come out of that.
Yeah, all right.
Speaking of lightsabers, and that's actually, it could combine this next point. We got to get as well.
Very cool.
So, one of the cool things that I was thinking about the Jedi that I never even considered, like, they build their own lightsabers.
That's part of their training.
It's part of their training.
Like a flea market.
Is technological. Like, part of their training is being having aptitude for engineering. Like, obviously at this point, like, it's the future and they can use crystals and harness power. But still, like,
but that's also
I
why
love that.
Kylo Ren's isn't refined. That's why it's that very harsh.
And actually why it comes out the side, too.
Yeah, because it's not...
Otherwise it would blow up or something.
I was going to say, it has something to do with the crystal, and it not being... It's, like, artificially made or it's somehow modified.
It's,
in order to be read.
StarWars.com. It's something like, it's like, I don't know.
And because he never completed his training, he was never able to, like, fancy up the lightsaber.
So he's just a hack.
He's just a dumb hack.
So I think what the Star Wars thing is funny. I think the StarWars.com was saying something about, I keep saying that. I don't know why I keep saying that. It's not like we're affiliated or anything like that.
Not yet.
No, it's not going to happen. I swear way too much in these shows. So anyways, I think it was like a crystal that was, like you said, not refined, but it was like, it fits his character well, where it's like this, it just bursts out energy. It's not stable,
right?
So that's why it has to have those exhaust ports on the side, and it's actually based off of some like ancient Jedi design from like the early days. Because if it was just a regular laser, it would just a regular beam. It wouldn't be able to hold it.
I always thought they were just like little stabby things.
So I guess what the website says is that they're actually exhausts.
Interesting.
Yeah, because otherwise there's so much power coming out of it that it has to exhaust out the sides.
No, that makes sense, but I always just thought it was like, oh, well, at first we brought you Darth Maul with his double-ended lightsaber, and now we bring you Kylo Ren with his kind of cross-like looking
I'm sure there was a little of that.
To be fair, they totally made this first, and then they said, all right, how do we explain this?
Well,
They came up with this first,
Well,
and then
and
they
it's a
cut the
classic.
story.
It's a
Maybe the
claymore.
design-
It's a claymore. It's a
but
long sword.
I'm gonna
Yes.
I'm gonna say this with pretty confident confidence that the crystal theory and the part of it being the Jedi training is not new. That's been like a
Oh
thing.
yeah, no, that's how cool.
But maybe the design came
think-
first.
yeah.
But like the crystal
The design's cool.
the crystal thing I've known about for a while. Like before this was a thing. So
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I didn't
But
know
yeah,
those were exhausts.
Going back at it, it's I love Star Wars. I love iconically what it does for people. Like people get so much out of Star Wars, and I wish Disney luck. I want them to succeed. I want them to have good movies coming out. I don't want Star Wars to die. Obviously, I'm going to make fun of it when they don't do
interested about
something
the Han
I like.
story with the whole like.
Solo will be interesting. I hope it's as good or better than Rogue
It
One.
should be better. Didn't they have to fire their director and then rehire a new one?
Well,
And-
yeah, we'll see what happens. That's never a good sign for a movie.
No,
So,
but
Another podcast.
that's for another day.
so yeah, let's end it there, guys.
Let's
Thank you,
do it.
thank you very much for coming on. This
Thanks
was
for having
this was
us.
nerdy
Thank you.
and awesome.
This was nerdy.
Of course,
I love it.
Thank you guys. As more I do the show, I am embracing my nerd even more. So thank you very much. Thank you for listening and watching. As always, you can catch us all our stuff todayinspace.net. You can watch us on our YouTube channel. You can watch us on pretty much every podcast player that you can find. Spread love, spread science, be good to people, and we'll be back soon.